You want to create realistic photos, right? I've been in your shoes too, and I've found different ways to really bring out the most out of an image file and create a realistic photo without going overboard and making it look like a cartoon. I think what a lot of people may not realize is that raw files specifically were made to be edited. So how do you bring out the most possible edits? Well, this is a sunset. It's kind of golden hour in Iceland. I'm just gonna adjust the horizon line real quick to get it straight. And this is what it really looked like. There was a lot of vibrance in the area, but I want to kind of edit that and bring out what I actually was seeing, because in this photo, it looks just a little bit flat. First thing is key is one of the words I just said, vibrance. Vibrance over saturation every single time if you want realistic looking photos. I'm gonna increase the vibrance up to about 57, and you see kind of the subtle effect that it has on there. It is a little bit overboard, but if I go up to 57 with saturation, you can see how much more fake it looks with saturation. So if you want to be kind of subtle with your photography and make it pop, use more vibrance rather than saturation, because I can go all the way up to 45 here without it looking fake. Now, these edits were made to be used together, so even with a lot of vibrance, you still increase the saturation just a little bit with your photos. Now, there's not a set number for every photo. What I like to do to get the most out of my images is cross that line into the cartoon phase and then slowly pull it back down to make it more realistic. So if I pull my saturation up to where it looks absolutely ridiculous, I'm gonna slowly drag it back down, watching the photo, and once it crosses that line back into realism, I'm gonna let up on my slider and leave it there. So we ended with a vibrance of 45 and a saturation of 18, and it actually looks realistic. We brought out the effects that were already there. Now, a lot of people might just stay there and only edit the colors with the vibrance and saturation, but I think the color mixer tool is the most powerful tool in Lightroom. What I want you to do is come down here, select the color dropper, and I'm gonna adjust some of these things. You see, even with the vibrance and saturation and doing it judiciously, the blues up here in the clouds don't look too realistic. So I'm actually gonna drop the saturation of the blues just a little bit right there in the sky. Now I can kind of attack these yellows and greens. So if I select this, I can also go to visualize range down here, and it turns everything I'm not editing into black and white. So I'm gonna increase the saturation on those just so that they look realistic. Again, if you're unsure about where that stops, go and cross the boundary into cartoon land and then slowly pull it back down. I landed on about 17, 18 each time, so that's where I'm gonna stop with that actual edit. That color mixer tool just allows you to pick out specific colors. This is really good for photos where you have flowers or maybe fall leaves that have a lot of different colors going on. You can click and adjust specific groups of colors rather than adjusting the saturation and vibrance all at once. Sharpening selectively is really important here, and to do this, I'm gonna go to masking. Now, recently, Lightroom came out with a landscape masking feature that basically scans the entire photo and allows you to choose some of the things that it selects out of the photo. So let's do a quick scan here. It's kind of a more difficult landscape because there's a lot of fog and mist in the atmosphere. Let's see what it does and how good of a detection it can do in the actual landscape. So anything in red is going to be that's what is going to be edited, and anything in blue will not be. So we have a little bit of water here, we have some vegetation, some mountains, and the sky. So I'm gonna select out mountains here because it did a decent job selecting those out. We have the overlay selected. Actually, with something like landscape or sky, it does a much better job selecting that mask out. I'll show you that in just a second in the next part of this. So I'm gonna deselect show overlay, and what I'm gonna do here, especially with these mountains selected, is I want those mountains to really come out. So that's where I'm gonna add my sharpening to with this actual photo. I'm gonna increase the sharpness on those actual mountains, and I'm gonna look for little details that are going on in there. Now, you may not know this, but actually if you hit a specific key on your keyboard, you unlock a completely different tool in sharpening. So we have sharpening here. What I'm gonna do is get out of my mask and go down to the sharpening in my window in Lightroom, the sharpening tool. come down to sharpening. If I hold down my option key and I have my option key selected, I'm gonna click and drag these effects. Now this just allows me to fine tune where that sharpening is occurring in the image, especially with masking. You see in the masking, where do I want this sharpening to occur? Basically just on those mountains in the foreground. So I'm gonna slide that up so that you see those mountains outlined in white. So I know that that's the only place I'm editing for the sharpening for those images. Now, I also want to create a mask of the actual sky selection. So I'm going to come up here and go to create new mask and go to select sky. And you can see that this mask selection is a lot better than this one. This one looks really jumbled. You see some really weird artifacts going on, which just means that it's kind of like a blurry mask. This one is much more detailed. So I'm going to use this mask. See, everything in white is going to be edited. Everything in black is not going to be edited. So I'm going to select this mask, deselect show overlay, and I'm just going to drop the highlights on that mask slightly so that you don't see so much of that white coming out. Now you saw some of that red come in here. I have my J key selected. I can hit the J key a couple times and make that turn on and off. What that does is it lets you know when you've gone too bright. So when you've gone too bright, you have no more pixel information in that area. So I'm just gonna drop the whites to where they have just a little bit popping in. Last thing I'm gonna do here, and this is something that you can or can't do depending on how you want your photos to look, but I think it adds a really nice dynamic, especially to atmosphere and fog. I'm gonna create a brush mask here. I'm just gonna paint in kind of where this fog is laying in the photo. Back down here in the bottom left, and I'm just gonna paint in that little section. And I'm going to slide down to dehaze. And I'm just going to increase that haze a little bit. Remember, to increase haze, you go to the left. To decrease haze, you go to the right. I'm just gonna do it really sparingly because I want kind of that effect to come through the photo just a little bit, so I went just to a -9. Let's look at the before and after real quick. You can see how much we've added to the photo without making it look too cartoony, and that could definitely work for your own photos, right? Now here's the thing, I just showed you a few tiny clicks of the mouse to make a photo better, but the thing is that you can take your photos so much further into improvement using Landscape Photography University. This is a platform I created that shows you how to edit your photos, yes, but also how to take great photos, understand composition all the way to the post-production part. So if you want that, we're running a sale right now. The link is below in the video description and in the pinned comment for you guys to check out. We also do these live photo edits every Friday at 2:15 on the channel. So if you want to be someplace where you can actually improve your photography, you're in the right place. So stick around, subscribe, and be notified when we go live and when we come out with new videos as well.